Hello. This video is for IXL activity A1.B.2. Now that's going to be Algebra 1 if the notation's new to you, so make sure that you're in the Algebra 1 section. So it's Algebra 1, Section B, Activity 2. So IXL A1.B.2, it is titled Evaluate Numerical Expressions Involving Integers. And the main focus of this particular lesson is understanding the order of operations. That's that whole PEMDAS. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, where we have to do parentheses first, then exponents, and then we're going to deal with multiplication and division going from left to right, and then addition and subtraction going from left to right. Be careful to understand that the multiplication and division are just as important as each other, and the addition and subtraction are just as important as each other. A lot of people think I have to do all the multiplying first, then the dividing, and all the addition, then all the subtraction. Really doesn't make that big of a difference in the addition and subtraction section, but especially in the multiplication and division part. So you want to be sure that you kind of got that down. So in our first question, oh, and by the way, it is the 3-character code Zulu Foxtrot X-ray. Make sure that code matches up. All right, so in the first one here, we have 5 plus 1 minus 2. And so there's only addition and subtraction here, so we'll just work from the left, and we're going to go to the right. And on this one here, I'm going to rewrite the problem, 5 plus 1 minus 2. And let's go ahead and do the 5 plus 1 first. So we're going to get 6, and then minus 2, and 6 minus 2 is 4. So we see that the result here, the solution is 4. Now, I'm going to go ahead and point it out here that in subtraction, talked about it in other lessons before, but maybe you've not seen that. So I always kind of like addition of negative numbers instead of subtraction. So I could write this 5 plus 1, and then I'm going to change the subtraction sign to addition. But anytime you change a subtraction to addition or addition to subtraction, then we have to take the opposite. We have to write down the opposite of the number that follows that sign that we change. So positive 2 is going to become negative 2. So you'll see, and I'll work this out, we'll see that 5 plus 2, or 5 plus 1 plus negative 2 is the same as 5 plus 1 minus 2. So again, let's go ahead and do this. 5 plus 1 part is 6. And then if we add a negative 2 to that, then we're still going to get a positive 4. So 6 plus a negative 2 is the same as 6 minus 2. We're going to see later on in other problems we're going to have minus and negative, and that can get kind of confusing. It looks like a double negative type thing going on. And so we'll kind of give you a heads up on that there, so a little bit of a hint about what we're going to do later on. All right, in the second problem here, I have subtraction and I have division. So I know that in the please excuse my dear Aunt Sally order of operations, I have no parentheses, I have no exponents, but I do have, I have no multiplication, but I do have some division that I have to do, and then there's no addition, but I do have some subtraction that I have to do. So due to order of operations, I first need to do the division part first. Let's get rid of my arrows there and clear that up. So let's do this 4 divided by 2 part. So I've got 1 minus whatever 4 divided by 2 is. Well, 4 divided by 2 is 2. And then 1 minus 2 is going to take us to a negative 1. Also, if you want to look at that as 1, let's change the subtraction sign to addition. And then the opposite of positive 2 is negative 2. And you can see here that 1 plus negative 2 also equals negative 1. So the solution is negative 1. I just kind of like, my personal preference is to always try to work in addition if possible. And I would rather add a positive and a negative number together than be subtracting. So next one here, I have addition and I have multiplication. So we realize we're going to have to do the multiplication first, right? So let's go ahead and do that. The 10 times 1 we have to do before this addition. So I have 1 plus whatever 10 times 1 is. Well, 10 times 1 is 10. So 1 plus 10 is 11. Now let's look and see what would have happened. What answer would we have gotten if we would have done this differently and done the addition first? So 1 plus 10, well, that's 11. and then times 1, actually we come out the same way there. So not a good one to pick out, right? So maybe we'll find another one that'll work rather well for an example like that. Sometimes it doesn't make a difference, but it's not very often that happens. So I have addition and I have division. So I know that according to PEMDAS, order of operations, I need to do this division first. So I'm going to go ahead and focus on the 8 divided by -2. So I'm going to put my 1 plus, and then whatever 8 divided by -2. So that's 8. I kind of like fractions as well. Every fraction is a division problem. So 8 divided by -2. Well, 8 divided by 2 is 4, and we know that a positive divided by a negative is a negative. Whenever we multiply positive and negative numbers, if the signs are the same, positive and positive, it equals a positive. If they're both the same, they're both negative, negative times negative also equals a positive. So whenever they have different signs, where one of them is positive and the other is negative, that's for multiplication and division. So that's going to be a -4. Now I can do 1 plus -4. Well, if I'm on a number line and here's 0 and here's 1, and I'm going to go back, right, adding -4, subtracting 4, then I'm going to land down here at -3. So 1 plus -4 is -3. All right, moving along. Here we have a parentheses, so we're going to do parentheses first. So let's work what's in the parentheses, kind of treat the parentheses like its own separate problem. And you see that we have multiplication here and addition here. So I need to do the multiplication first. Okay, so we're going to do 9 divided by, and now we need to deal with this part here. And let's kind of work that over to, well, maybe I should have just left that 9. Let's just deal with that. Let's work with this parentheses here. And 8 times 1 times 8 is 8, and then plus 1. Now we can bring down that 9 divided by. And now let's do 9 divided by, let's deal with the parentheses still, what's left there. 8 plus 1 is 9, and 9 divided by 9 equals 1. Because again, every division problem can be written as a fraction. And so 9 over 9, and any number over itself is equal to 1. So in this case, our solution is 1. On the next one, I have subtraction, multiplication, and division. So going left to right, this is a good one here. Let's go ahead and say we did the division first. 7 divided by 7 is 1. Then I'd do the multiplication, and I'd end up with 6 times 1, and that would be 6. And then I need my 2 minus 6, and that would give me -4. So if we didn't follow the order operations, we'd end up with -4. So let me go ahead and erase all of that there, and now let's do it by the order operations and see what happens. So here I have, and I'm thinking I might end up the same place. Let's see. So let's go ahead and focus on this right here. So 2 minus 6 times 7 is 42, and then bring down the divided by 7. Now let's deal with the division, and we'll end up the same way again. Picking terrible examples on this one here. So 2 minus and 42 divided by 7 is 6. So we end up with 2 minus 6, or another way to look at that is 2, change the sign, take the opposite of 6, that's -6. So we're adding -6 to 2, and we'd still end up at -4. Just can't catch a break. I'm trying to find good examples, and the reason for that is, well, not really. I was going to say because multiplication, division are inverse properties, inverse operations to each other, but sometimes it doesn't work out so nice. All right, so here I have parentheses inside of parentheses. I have a -8 that's being squared, and then I'm going to have to divide that result by +8, and then whatever I get then, square it. So let's deal with the -8 squared. That means -8 times -8, and it's a big deal that the negative sign is inside the parentheses. So this means that it is -8 times -8, and that's going to equal 64. And negative times negative is positive, so I'll end up with 64. Now let's bring down that -8 squared. So I did the -8 squared. Next thing I need to do is divide 64 by 8, and 64 divided by 8 is 8. That's what was in the parentheses from here. Now let's bring down our exponent of 2, and 8 squared is 64. So my final answer would be 64. On the next one, see where I got this minus a negative in there? I'm just going to rewrite this before I ever start. Negative 8 plus 10. Then I'm going to change the subtraction sign to addition, and I'm going to take the opposite of the number, the value that follows that sign that I just changed. So negative 5, the opposite of that is positive 5, and then times negative 9. So I have addition, and multiplication. Let's deal with this multiplication first. Okay, so negative 8, I'm going to bring all this down before I even finish that, and plus, and then 5 times negative 9. Well, 5 times 9 is 45, and a positive times a negative is a negative. So let's start working left to right. Negative 8 plus 10. Well, I'm all the way down to negative 8 on the number line. I'm going to add 10. So that's going to get me up. That's enough to get me past it to a positive number. That's going to take me to positive 2. Another way to look at this is, think of it as, since one's positive, the other one's negative. Let's go ahead and subtract the numbers. The lesser, the one that has the lowest absolute value. That's kind of another discussion. But let's kind of pretend the negative sign isn't there. And 10 minus 8 is 2. And since 10, if the negative signs weren't there, 10 is greater than 8, it gets the same sign. So 10 has a positive sign, so 2 is positive. And now I'm going to add to that negative 45. And now I need to add negative 45 to 2. This means that another way to look at it is to minus, change the sign, right? Opposite of negative 45 is positive 45. So on this one here, you could look at the difference between those two would be 43. And looking up here, we see that the 45 is greater than the 2, and the 45 has a negative sign. So I throw the negative sign on there, so it's a negative 43. Another way to look at that, and this thing video would really get lengthy if I keep drawing number lines in here. So if here's 0, and I'm at 2, and then I have to subtract 45, that means going back the other way, I'll end up way down here. And took me two of them to get to 0. That's leaving me with 43 left over. So I end up down there at negative 43. Kind of a little bit of a visual image on a number line. All right, so I do have a parenthesis, but notice there's no operation in there. The parenthesis is there to hold this negative in with that 7, because negative 7 squared is different than negative 7 squared. In this case, this is saying the opposite. We would read the negative sign as the opposite of 7 squared. Well, 7 squared is 49, and the opposite of that is negative 49. That's what this one matches up with here. But this one here actually means negative 7 times negative 7. So big difference between this and this. So since they want you to make sure that you're multiplying negative 7 times negative 7, so you use the parenthesis to hold that negative sign in. So I'm going to go negative 2 times negative 7 times negative 7. Well, 7 times 7 is 49, and negative times negative is positive, so I'm good to go there. Let's bring down the divided by negative 2. Now I have multiplication and division. So let's go ahead and multiply 49 times 2. Well, that should be 98, right? And positive times negative is a negative. Signs are different. Divided by negative 2. And now, I'll write this 98 over negative 2, because every division problem can be written as a fraction. 98 divided by 2 is, oh, look at that, we're right back to 49, right? And negative divided by negative is positive, so my answer is positive 49. On the next one here, I have a minus a negative again, and you'll see where This is like you're taking away a negative, and it's kind of like a double negative thing going on. And so I'm going to rewrite this 7, change this subtraction to addition, change the following value after that comes after that sign I changed to its opposite. Opposite of -1 is 1. And let's bring down that square and throw on that -8. All right, let's take care of what's in the parentheses. 7 plus 1 is 8. Let's square that and then subtract 8. Now before we do the subtraction, we have to do the exponent. 8 times 8 is 64. And now I'm going to subtract 8. And on this one here, it's not neither number's negative. I could write that as 64 plus -8. But for most of you, that's probably not going to be necessary. So 64 minus 8 is 56. And 56 is the solution. On this one here, 1 minus what is -6 squared? Well, 6 times 6 is 36. Negative times negative is positive, so that's 36. And plus -3. 1 minus 36 is the same as 1 plus -36. And let's go ahead and bring down our plus -3. So here we have a positive being added to a negative. So we could actually subtract them, and that would be 35. But 36 has a greater absolute value than 1. And so 36 has a negative sign, so we're going to make the 35 negative, and then plus -3. Well, at this point, we're at -35, and we're adding a -3, so it's going to be even more negative. Here, the signs are the same, so we're adding 2 negative numbers together. And just like if this were positive 35, if we had 35 plus 3, we get 38, right? Well, the signs are the same, so since they're both positive, the answer is going to be positive. Negative numbers, just the same. So 35 plus 3 is 38, and since they're both negative, the answer is going to be negative as well. So we have -38. On this one here, minus a negative, so I'm going to rewrite it. -5 plus, change this here to its opposite, 6 plus 4 times -6. So I have subtraction, I have addition, and multiplication. So let's do this multiplying first. So -5 plus 6, we'll bring that down. And we're going to add that to whatever 4 times -6 is. Well, 4 times 6 is 24. It is a positive times a negative, so this is negative. Now I can go ahead and do the -5 plus 6. So I'm down at -5 on a number line. I'm adding 6. It's enough to get me past 0, right, up to a +1. Or if you want to look at it this way, 6, they're different signs. We're adding a negative number and a positive number, so we could actually subtract them. 6 minus 5 is 1. The 6 is positive, has a greater absolute value than -5, so it's going to be positive as well. And then plus -24. And here we are again. We're adding a positive and a negative number together. So let's go ahead and subtract them instead. 24 minus 1 is 23. And the -24 has a greater absolute value than the +1. So we're going to use the same sign as the one with the greatest absolute value. So it's -23. And final 2 problems here. I have -19. This is all in parentheses, so I need to figure this out and then square the whole thing, right? And I do have a minus and negative, so I'm going to rewrite it all. -19, change this to addition. Take the opposite of -15, make it +15, times 1. And then after I figure out everything inside here, I'm going to square it. So it looks like I've got addition and multiplication. So let's do this part first. So I'm at -19 and bring that down. Plus 15 times 1 is 15. Bring down my square, don't forget it. Then -19 plus 15. So I'm adding a negative and a positive number. So let's actually subtract them. 19 minus 15 is 4. And the 19 has a greater absolute value than the 15, so it's negative, so my answer is going to be negative. And now I have the square. I'm going to square this -4 as the result of everything that was inside the parenthesis. And now I have Oh, this might be a good point. Almost got tricked there. I might want to use the parentheses still because this negative would be inside of it. If it would have been out here, something different, but it's not. It was on the inside, so this actually equals -4 times -4. 4 times 4 is 16, and negative times negative is positive, so it's positive 16. One last one to go here. Let's go ahead and do this -11 times -11. Now, I happen to know that -11 is, or that 11 times 11 is 121. And notice the negative sign's inside, so that is a -11 times -11. So it's 121. I just got done squaring that, so I took care of that. And I should have took care of exponents first, right? Let's go back. I want to do it properly. I could have taken a shortcut there. Let's go ahead and write my -11 squared. Getting in a hurry because I see the time on the video. I've been going long on this one. -8 times, and then I need to do what's in parentheses right here, right? So think of this as -14. Change the sign. The opposite of 18, -18 is +18. So I'm adding a negative and a positive number. So they're different. Let's go ahead and subtract them instead. The difference is 4. And the 18 is positive, the 14 is negative. So 18 has a greater absolute value than the -14. So 18 is positive. My answer is going to be positive. So what I get there is 4. So that's 8 times 4. So that was parentheses. Now I need to do exponents. So now I can put in that 121. -11 times -11. -11 squared. 11 times 11 is 121. Negative times negative is positive. Minus 8 times 4. Now, before I do the subtraction, I have to do the multiplication right here. So let's bring the 121 minus, and 8 times 4 is 32. And now I can do 121 minus 32, and 121 minus 32. Yep, I could have done it in my head, but I got lazy there. 89. All right, so my final answer is 89. Whew. All right, so those are all of my examples for IXL A1.B.2 titled Evaluate Numerical Expressions Involving Integers. Remember the whole PEMDAS thing? Parentheses, exponents, multiplication and division left to right, and addition and subtraction left to right. Good luck on your activity.